Okay, there we go. Okay, good morning, everybody. If you do have Facebook, if you would please share it to your page. You can just go to the Peerland Chamber of Commerce and share the page, and all of your guests or friends online can see us live. So welcome to our Entrepreneur Series, and we have an excited topic for our Pearland residents that we'll be talking about today, talking about the Peerland Innovation Hub and what that's all about, and some good things that are coming to the Peerland community to help support us, which I'm very, very excited about. So before we start, we want to introduce those in attendance here on Zoom, and then we'll turn it over to our panelists if they can give us a bio about themselves, who they work for and what they do. So I'm going to start first here with Tony.
Good morning, guys. Happy to be here. Happy Friday. My name is Tony Valle. I am the Vice President of Business Retention and Expansion here at the Peerland Chamber. And I'm excited to talk about Innovation Hub this morning and the great resources and stuff that's going to go on to support our entrepreneurs in Pearland. So welcome and excited to be here.
And thank you for running everything behind the scenes. We appreciate it.
Yes, if you have, yep.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will be monitoring comments and anything in the Zoom chat. I will put in the Facebook chat. And if anybody needs to get a hold of us, all they can do, they just reach out to the chamber and I will be more than happy to connect them.
All righty. And we also have Miss Ann Struhall joining us on Zoom as well.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Struhall. I own Struhall and Associates. I'm a certified HR consultant, and I'm also past chair of the board of the Pearland Chamber. So I'm excited about the activity going on in Pearland with the hub and what our future could hold in helping these entrepreneurs come and start businesses and keep them going in Pearland.
Awesome. And my name is Kiana James, if you don't know me, and I help to chair this business and entrepreneurship group. And I'm the owner actually of Friendly Faces Senior Care. So we actually help to take care of our seniors. We have a lot coming this year for entrepreneurs and small businesses with the Peerland Chamber. So we're very, very excited about some things. And maybe before we wrap up, Tony, if you can give them a short overview once we get to the end of some of the new things that we have coming up.
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about. But we'll keep you guys in suspense and then we'll tell you before you wrap up. Yes. So now we're going to turn it over to Mr. Brian Malone. If you could give us an introduction as to who you are, who you represent, and what you're about.
Sure. Well, good morning. It's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to visit with everyone about the Peerland Innovation Hub. I'm Brian Malone. I'm the Vice President for Pearland Economic Development. Been in Pearland for almost 7.5 years. So primarily my responsibilities are working on business attraction. So bringing new business industry to Pearland. And then also just as important, doing business retention, working with our existing businesses to help them grow and obviously to keep them here in Pearland. So great to be here and be able to talk about this exciting topic.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have Melissa Gonzalez.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for having me. I am the Member Programs Manager for an organization called The Cannon, which is a startup development organization in Houston supporting businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs. And we are excited to be partnering with the PEDC to bring the Peerland Innovation Hub to life. So really excited to chat about that today.
Awesome. So we're going to get right into our questions. And my first one is for Brian. I know you spoke of the PEDC. Can you talk a little bit more about what the PDEC is, kind of how it got started? I know for me personally, I didn't even know anything about it until I joined the chamber. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know we had all of these resources. Can you tell those out there who may have never heard of the PEDC what it is and what it's about?
Sure, glad to. Pearland Economic Development is a nonprofit corporation that was formed by the city of Pearland. And that formation actually occurred after a local option sales tax election occurred back in 1995, I believe. But we have the citizens of Pearland opted to devote a 1/2-cent sales tax to the purposes of economic development. So that allows us, the Economic Development Corporation, then to take those funds and utilize them in our programs. Those programs obviously being some of the things that I mentioned earlier, doing business attraction, business retention. We also do a number of infrastructure projects in that regard. We have a 7-member board of directors that is appointed by the Pearland City Council. Obviously we work with the city council on any projects that we have. So very interlaced with those folks and have great support for them on the projects that we're doing. So, but really we are here to help grow the Pearland economy and keep us moving forward.
Awesome. And if you see a lot of the new development going on, we're like a little med center here, or if you go down Kirby and you see all of these new businesses, medical businesses and tool manufacturing, all of this new stuff coming to Peerland that's supporting our community, we can thank the PEDC for their involvement and taking the lead on that. We definitely see the growth in Peerland. I'm new to Peerland. I think I moved here maybe 2011. So once all the new stuff started coming, but I do have friends that were raised in Peerland and they're like, I remember when it was cow pastures, and it's like a total different world for them. But it's even in the time in which I've been a resident of Peerland, I've seen the growth and the change. And it's very, very exciting. And we know that there's a lot more stuff that's planned for Peerland. And I know at the chamber, we like to say we're making it a community of choice. There's so many communities that support Houston, surrounding cities, and Peerland is a very popular area. And it's an area that a lot of people are looking at, especially moving from out of town. And a lot of it has to do with the rich, diverse community, the choices of the schools. We have great choices for schools for people that are looking for that. We have great price point, great neighborhoods. And then the proximity. One of the things I love is the proximity to Houston. I mean, when I need to get into town, I just hop on 288 and now we've got that new little beltway thingy and you're there in like 15 minutes. So it's wonderful, wonderful community. And that's what we want to do at the chamber and the PEDC is really tell more people about this as an option and more businesses as well. So Brian, with this PEDC, why did it begin this initiative? Talking specifically about the Peerland Innovation Hub.
Sure, you bet. Well, and that really was a part of whenever the corporation undertook the 2020 Pearland Prosperity Plan. That is a community-wide economic development strategic plan that we undertook. And that really was a collaborative plan when you look at that, where we brought in all the stakeholders in the city, working with all the different groups, the chamber, schools, the education entities, businesses, and really work with them to formulate a strategic plan for us for the next 5-10 years. As part of that, we identified 7 goals in that strategic plan. And the second goal was to deal with business formation and early growth. So that was something that came up very strong in our meetings with our citizens, that we needed to look at how we can greater support that development in our community. How do we develop that entrepreneurial ecosystem? And to do that, I think there's something that you have to recognize is there are many different types of entrepreneurs. You have folks that are startups. I mean, they are literally someone that just have an idea that they want to do something, create a new business or something like that. And they're at what you would consider, just formation stage. Then you actually have entrepreneurs that are existing small businesses, just like you, Kiana. You are a business. You're a little more evolved here, I don't think, than some folks, maybe, but maybe they're a small business and they're just been in operation for a few years, or or maybe new, and they need a different type of help. They may need some help regarding doing some additional business planning, or maybe it's something dealing with permitting. So there's all different types of help what you get into. If you're a business that's creating a new technology, you may need some different type of expertise that will help you progress your business. So when we looked at this, we realized it's a wide breadth of services that you need to have for that. So with that, we had this context of we need to support business formation. Well, how do we do that? After the Peerland Prosperity Plan was approved in 2020, then PEDC began that process, and we actually hired a firm called Business Cluster Development to help us to really go through that process, because I'll be quite honest, I understand enough about entrepreneurship and business formation, but I know enough to know that I would just be dangerous if I tried to accomplish any of this on my own. So we hired some experts to help us walk through the process to get a better understanding of what all this is. I mean, business formation, entrepreneurial systems have really just changed in the last 3 or 4 years to where they have really come to the forefront of many communities in terms of that. So we worked with Business Cluster Development and really used another collaborative approach where we appointed a steering committee of citizens from Pearland, business entrepreneurs who have had experience in starting companies and running companies, and identified those folks. We worked with the Peerland Prosperity Committee, the Pearland Chamber, and a lot of other business organizations really to get that input for us, because it really is important for us to be able to get a good understanding, what is happening in Pearland in that regard. So with that, we really began a deep dive into the Houston entrepreneurial system. And as you can imagine, Houston is a massive city, and it has so many resources a lot of times that we don't realize that are there. So we had to really get a really good base understanding of the different organizations, what they're doing, and how they do the different things in terms of working with entrepreneurs. You have things like Houston Exponential, the Fannin Institute, J Labs, the Cannon, and many others that are here in Houston. But what is it they do? How could they interrelate with us in that regard? So once we had that base information, then we had to really get an idea of what's happening in Pearland in terms of business formation, business activity. Are there entrepreneurs here? We really need to figure out, who's here doing that. And we did additional research to look at people who are creating patents, people who are doing SBIR grants, Strategic Business Innovation Research grants, to look at that to see what type of environment we have already here. And one of the things, that we looked at when we were doing this, it's really a market feasibility study when you get down to it. Looking at, is there enough volume of people for us to even consider this? We came to the conclusion after all this research that yes, there is a market here in Pearland to do entrepreneurship in that regard. But once you kind of have that done, well, what is it we need to do? You kind of think about, we know there's people here that are innovative, that are, interested in doing business startups and existing businesses that may want to do something new. So how do we help them do that? So we really had to, there again, kind of look at specifically, what type of system do we want to build? What type of ecosystem? I mentioned, some of those organizations, well, some of those places are co-working space to where you have a desk, maybe you have a cubicle and you go and work. Some are what we call maker spaces, where you may have a little bit larger space to where you actually go in and rent 2,000 or 3,000 square feet and actually begin producing your product. Some of those have mentoring programs. Some of them have wet labs. There's just a plethora of different things that are happening in the Houston market And we really needed to get a handle on those and also what our needs were, and really need to determine, is it a physical facility that we needed to be building here in Pearland? So with all that in mind and all the research done, in 2021, we actually set it on creating what we call an entrepreneurial hub. And eventually we called it the Peerland Innovation Hub. And that really is a system that could provide the support to those businesses wherever they are, in whatever stage of their growth cycle, to provide them support and to grow those businesses. And we essentially came up with something that we needed to have was what we call a navigator, a person who can then take those businesses from step A all the way to whatever the end result is through that process, from understanding early business formation, understanding maybe they need to do market research, maybe they need engineering help or technology help or something like that. But that navigator is really a guide person who can then work with those businesses and put everything together. With that idea in mind, then what we did next was actually go out and do an RFP, a request for proposals, for firms to actually create the Peerland Innovation Hub. And here again, we're not talking about a physical space. We're talking about providing the network support for businesses to begin to thrive. So we went through a long process and looked at a lot of different great firms here in the Houston area, and eventually settled on the Cannon. We felt that they had the best breadth of services, that they could come in and commit and be able to implement the plan that we had developed. Whenever we worked with business cluster development, we have a very lengthy strategic plan that we wanted to actually accomplish. So we looked at the Cannon, settled on them because we felt that they could be our implementer, provide us with a navigator, and really get us moving quicker than if we were to try and do that in-house or something like that. So this past December, we came and had an agreement. City Council blessed this agreement. The Pearland EDC board blessed it. Prosperity Plan, the Chamber are all on board. So now we are in the process of, we've hired the Cannon to be our implementation arm, and now they are in the process of finding us a navigator. So it's full steam ahead right now.
So exciting. Now, I did notice that, and you mentioned it, and that was going to be one of my questions. It was originally named the Peerland Entrepreneurship Hub. Why the change to the name Innovation? What was the thought behind that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that, we had a lot of discussion about the naming of it, what would be appropriate. And we really felt that innovation covered a lot more in terms of the breadth of activity in that regard. So, plus we looked at other communities, quite honestly, Kiana, we looked at what other people were naming things. We wanted ours to be a little bit different and really settled on that because we felt it was very inclusive of everything that we wanted to accomplish in that regard.
I love the name. Awesome. So Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you. Can you tell us, I know you mentioned in your bio or your introduction about the Cannon, but can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the Cannon, how it came about, what it's doing for because it's not just for Peerland, it's born out of Houston. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So the Cannon in a lot of ways is a startup ourselves. And so we're able to relate to all kinds of different companies and the stages that they're in. So the Cannon was started in 2017 and it was a small, funky space where startups and entrepreneurs got together to work and propose different challenges to each other. And that big idea was always that we were going to have one large building and it was going to be very inclusive of entrepreneurs and startups at all stages. And we were going to provide resources to them via workshops, via connections to investors, mentors, and ultimately building a community. Since 2017, we have grown to 6 physical locations around the Houston area. So we have one in the West Houston area. We have 2 downtown. two in the Galleria area, and one of those being specific sports themed. So if you have a sports startup, it's a fun place to be. And then we also have one in Galveston. So what's different though in Pearland, like Brian mentioned, is that we won't have a physical space, but we will still have all of the resources that come with the Cannon, and most importantly, building that community of resources and entrepreneurs.
That's very interesting. I didn't know y'all had all of those locations. I'm gonna visit them and see what they look like. I'm very intrigued. Now, what's your take on the Peerland Innovation Hub? I know Brian gave a very thorough explanation from the PEDC's perspective, but talk to us about the Canning getting involved in this project and what you see for this project.
Sure. So the Cannon is extremely excited to be part of this. Like I said, it's something different from what we've done before, but we're excited to build the community here. So there's going to be lots of different aspects to the Pearland Innovation Hub, including a proactive coaching program that will be one-on-one coaching for startups and entrepreneurs that are a little bit past the idea on the napkin phase and really getting them going. We're going to have monthly events. So those will consist of always a social something because we do want to build community. So whether that's a happy hour or a lunch or a coffee meetup, whatever that might be, you can always be on the lookout for that. But in addition to the fun stuff, we're also going to be hosting workshops and different pitch competitions and things like that. We really want to engage all of the members in the community, including high schools and colleges, and really getting the younger folks excited about entrepreneurship as well, and maybe even introducing the idea or word to them at all. So, yeah.
And I love to hear that. That's something I'm very passionate about. And we're really, Tony and I been working on ways in which we can involve the students, high school, middle school, elementary level. And I love the way you said that, introducing the word to them, because sometimes you just think of something and then it can just spark a whole new journey for someone. So I love that. Yeah. Now, it said monthly events for Hub members. So it's a membership? Do they join? Is there a cost? What can you say about this so far?
Yeah, great question. So, and something I didn't mention before. So since we won't have a physical hub, most of our events will be at local Pearland businesses, which is something that I'm excited about as well. So we'll be hosting all of our events at local restaurants, local, bars and breweries, all kinds of different places around the city of Pearland to support entrepreneurs. So wanted to touch on that. To answer your question though about membership, so there will be a virtual component to the Pearland Innovation Hub. It'll be an online platform that will be similar to a LinkedIn, Facebook type of situation, but it will be specifically for the Peerland Innovation Hub members. This platform will have a live feed, so similar to a LinkedIn or Facebook. It will also have a link to all of our event information and what you can find upcoming. And then, of course, it will house the applications for requesting a proactive coach or an advisor, and all of that. So again, to answer your question on membership, as of right now, we are still working on developing that website, but it will be up and running soon. And for right now, we have 2 applications for members. So we have a Hub member application specifically, and then we have a coaching application as well. So whether you're interested in being involved on either the Hub or member side, we have both of those things. And for now, you can reach out to me for that information, and I'm happy to share my contact info after this with anyone who's interested. And as of right now, there will be no fee associated with the Peerland Innovation Hub.
Okay, and can you make sure, Tony, do you have her information? Okay. Go ahead. You're on mute, Tony.
Yeah, I'm good. Melissa, if you'll just put it in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and put it on the feed so everyone can have it right now.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit
All
more
right, there you go.
about timelines. So I know y'all are still kind of working on certain things. Certain
Mhm.
things will be coming live. You talk about the events, the pitch party. I know you say you're still working on the website. Where does the timeline look for all of this?
Yeah, great question. So right now we are in our pre-launch phase as we're still building the community and building awareness around what's going on. We are planning to have a launch event in the next month or two. So be on the lookout for information from there. We'd love anyone and everyone to join us. And that will be at a Backfish Brewing Company. We have our location, just still working on the date. So once we have our launch event though, then you can be on the lookout for consistent monthly events. Like I said, one will be a social event, and then there will be 1 or 2 workshop style events to go along with that.
Okay. And I know Brian touched on this, and you can give me your thoughts. And then Brian, if you have any other thoughts about the target audience of who you're looking to attract to become members, to participate, to support this initiative.
Yeah. So great question. We are, Brian mentioned it, we want to support entrepreneurs of all stages. So whether it's a back of the napkin wantrepreneur, like I like to call them, and they have no clue where to start, we would love to help them out and get them going with some workshops. Whether they are they've been in business 5 to 10 years and they're looking for a steady growth plan, we'd love to help them with that. Brian didn't touch on these folks, but I think that they're extremely important as well. So, the people who've been in business 20, 30, 35 years and are a bit stuck in their ways on their invoicing systems and marketing tools, kind of bringing them up to the 21st century and helping them get organized and up to date with things as well. So really, we would like to support entrepreneurs at all stages. As far as the proactive coaching specifically goes, though, we would like to support entrepreneurs who are still at the beginning stages, but at least have a website up. They at least have an MVP or minimal viable product and a customer, so that we can really help them grow from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that Melissa hit on a lot of great things. Obviously this is for anyone when you get down to it. I mean, we're not trying to limit, who can receive assistance or help. It could be a high school kid or someone in junior high that has an idea. It's not limited to that type of situation. If you have an idea and or you're wanting to see it, if you can develop it, that's what this innovation hub is to help with. Regardless of your business stage, it's there to be a resource for the community. And I think the other thing is, finding those mentors and coaches is really important for us, because they will be critical for us to be able to have success. I mean, we need those volunteers, and hopefully if you're interested, get a hold of Melissa and she can make sure that you get the application and know how to go there. But that's something that, we're obviously looking at doing. And then, once we get through our pre-launch, then we'll get into, doing everything that Melissa had mentioned in terms of events, the actual coaching, and really getting it rolling. Have a dedicated website for that. And we've looked at the platform that the Canon is creating, and it's going to be a great asset for those people that are interested, because it'll have a lot of resources. And quite honestly, that's one of the things that's important, is a lot of times you don't know what to do or how to do it. Well, that's what that platform is really designed for us to do, is be able to provide that information in an easily accessible manner. So that's something that we're looking forward to.
Awesome. So let's talk about some expected results, and we'll break this up to a 3-part question. I'll start with you, Brian, and then move to you, Melissa. So what are some expected results for entrepreneurs themselves?
Well, when you look at that, I think when we just look at the entrepreneurs, obviously we want to be able to, one, find them and identify them, and then get them into the programs. Their success will be dependent upon what they want to do, obviously. But for us, when we looked at this program and the information that we had from, our stakeholders and citizens and all the input is, one, we want to provide that nurturing environment. So if we're providing a nurturing environment, then we're, allowing them to have the opportunity really to be successful. What we want to happen, obviously, is for those folks to be successful, to create businesses, that creates wealth for them, creates new jobs for the community. And, eventually, hopefully, they grow enough to where they need a facility. They need an office, they need whatever it is. So, there's that component of capital investment that they would have in Pearland. But really, when it comes down to it, is we want to see those people have the opportunity to grow their business and have our opportunity to be successful. So, we don't have, we're not going to do metrics or say we need to create 5,000 jobs. That's a hard thing to do when you're doing an entrepreneurship program. But the important thing is for us to provide that ecosystem of support so that then they can start growing. And as we know in economic development, existing businesses are the bread and butter of where we're at. I mean, that creates the most jobs. So we want to make sure once we have them, then we can continue to grow them.
Correct. And Melissa, your thoughts on how this program will help local entrepreneurs?
Yeah, lots of great points, Brian. Every entrepreneur is going to define success in a different way. So we just have to help them understand what success means to them and develop smart goals around that to help them meet those goals. And I think that really those are the metrics that we'll be looking at is defining or measuring whether or not the businesses that become part of this community are reaching their specific SMART goals. And going back to a point earlier, just building awareness around entrepreneurship and innovation as a whole, I think is going to be really important for our community. And I want to emphasize community because that's what we're building here.
Awesome. What about the economy? What do you think a program like this would do for the economy specifically?
Obviously that's something, that I kind of touched in, when you look at the job creation aspect, you look at people being able to change their lifestyle if they want to. But, when you look at the economy, obviously that's something that, we're going to continue to build those businesses so that they have a place to be in Pearland. And I think, it really is about creating that support network so that they not only create, but they maintain and they know how to grow. Because this is, I think Melissa had a good point. You may have been in business for 20 years, but there may be something that you're not taking advantage of. So this provides us with an opportunity to have that outreach to those businesses to allow them to do something different, to grow and expand. So, it can touch all different phases of our economy and of our businesses. So we really see it as, very inclusive. It's just not somebody, as Melissa said, has a napkin. Maybe you're well past that, but you still need some assistance, and so we're going to create that supporting, nurturing environment for that, for those businesses.
That's great. And I would think, it would also be a source to attract, aspiring entrepreneurs or other people to our community as well. And so that would be great for the local Peerland economy and just, encouraging people when they have that idea on that napkin, like Melissa said, to go ahead and pursue it. Because sometimes, people, and I can speak from being an entrepreneur, you have all these ideas in your head. And sometimes the hardest part is just making that leap to start putting things in place. And then many times when people don't really understand how an entrepreneurial mind works, they're not always the most encouraging. And so people may just put that napkin away. Well, when we have programs like this, then it can say, you know what, you're not crazy to have that idea on that napkin. And you know what, you can actually make that happen. And these are the steps you need to take to actually put that into creation. And so furthering jobs and furthering businesses in the Pearland community will be good for our economy. Now, what about the local community in general? And I'll let you speak. Melissa, do you want to speak on that first? How will this program support local community?
Yeah, first I wanted to touch on what you were saying, Kiana, to just, you know, not be afraid of an idea that you have, and having the right support system around you. And part of that, I think, is starting young. So getting into the high schools, getting into the colleges, and showing them that, hey, that crazy idea or that crazy dream you had last night, you can actually pursue it, and providing the resources for them. And then ultimately that will help boost our economy because we'll start new businesses. So to answer your question about the overall community, I think that it will just build a stronger community in general in the Pearland area, bringing people together, and showing them exciting things that people are working on and building, and spurring a connection with, the neighbor 3 houses down that you didn't know was actually an app developer, or someone across the city, that you now are great friends with, and maybe you found a co-founder for your business. So really connecting people, and building strong relationships in the community, I think is going to be powerful.
And I really couldn't say that much better, quite honestly, yeah, Kiana. I mean, I think Melissa hit on those things that are important to us in creating that opportunity. And that's really what it is about, is creating some opportunities for people to take advantage of. And here again, this is, you're going to opt in if you want to take advantage of this. So, I mean, it's totally voluntary for you to get involved, but it allows us to have that third stool, if you will take it, when you look at business formation and entrepreneurship, third stool of economic development, where people can take advantage of that. I mean, garage projects, garage businesses do evolve. I mean, I know of several here in Pearland that have started in garages, and they are getting bigger and, taking up additional space. We're actually leasing some manufacturing space. So it's not unquestionable. It's just a matter of how can we maybe accelerate those so that, our growth becomes quicker in terms of business development. And, by providing the systems and support, I think you'll see it happen quicker. Getting into the schools is important, because a lot of times kids don't understand that, they're learning math and science and history, but maybe they're not learning about, how to form a business or think out of that box, in terms of doing that. So, it's going to create that innovation, if you want to call it, type of ideation type situation, to where people are not afraid to do it and have the resources to go forward.
And I love you talking about starting out of garages. We have prime example, Google started out of a garage famously, and now they're worth $283 billion. I mean, so, and there you go. So we never know who might be the next billion-dollar company coming from Peerland. There you go. So what are the first steps a business owner will need to take to initiate interest? So we talked about, we knew Melissa's putting her information in the chat. Is there anything else the business owners will need to do if they're interested in getting involved?
As of right now, the first step will be to reach out to me. Since we don't have our landing page up just yet, this will be this step. And then once we do have everything up and running, Kiana, maybe I can send it over to you and you can blast it out to the community. But for right now, first steps are reach out to me. I will send over the applications, and then I'll put you on my list to reach out to whenever we have the launch date set. And then aside from that, once we do have things up and running, if you are interested and you just aren't quite sure yet if you want to fill out an application, that's a-okay too. That's part of the reason we're going to have our social events every month. So I highly encourage everyone that might have an inkling of interest to come to one of those social events and meet the navigator and the other people in the community.
Okay, awesome. So any closing remarks or anything we didn't cover from either you, Brian, or Melissa that you want to bring out about the program or anything in general on this topic?
Well, let me just say, we're excited about, working with the Canon and getting this going. We have went through a lot of process to get an understanding of what we need to do. And we're excited about what the Canon's capabilities are. Once we get to where we're actually officially launched, I think, things will accelerate in terms of the events and the things that you're going to see happening. So stay tuned, keep your eyes open, and we look forward to seeing a lot of success.
And Kiana, one other thing I'd like to just make a comment about, and I'm sure that probably Melissa and Brian have seen this also, but with the 2 years of the pandemic that we've been living through, you've seen, and I've seen a lot of people that are leaving corporate America. They've done the remote work. They may be asked to be coming back to the office. They don't want to do that. They've have these great ideas, and so they're budding entrepreneurs as a result of a change in their corporate ladder and their corporate future, that they don't want to do the corporate America route anymore, and they got used to doing the work from home and having some autonomy. So I think we're seeing a lot of that. So I think this is coming along at a great time to help those individuals as they're leaving one career path and starting a brand new one, and seeing what they do, and providing them with the assistance and support that they need to be a success at that.
I think that's an important point to bring out. We are seeing that in healthcare, especially with nurses. And we know that Peerland has so many nurses that live in our community because of its close proximity to the med center and our Peerland Med Center that we have here locally. We're seeing a lot of nurses, there's a lot of controversy with the vaccines and some not wanting to take the vaccines, but also a lot of nurses that were doing COVID jobs were making a ton of money. And a lot of nurses have been stacking that money, and now they're leaving the industry and starting their own businesses. So I think that's a very important point, because we do see that trend and that change happening, not only in the Pearland community, but pretty much across the country.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you see all sorts of, the economy has changed, obviously, because of COVID. We're seeing everyone adjust in different ways, and I think this just provides us with a tool to help those folks. I mean, something that we haven't mentioned is, the Small Business Development Center. Robert Johnson, who offices there at the Pearland Chamber, is another great resource. So, it's important for us to integrate all these different resources so that when people are whatever stage they are can get that help. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we're going to be continuing to look at, and, look for lots of success.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Melissa, did you have anything?
I was just going to say I completely agree with you all. And I've actually met with a handful of people in the Pearland area that have been, long-term engineers and other things. And they're reaching out to us because they heard about the Peerland Innovation Hub, and they're like, I've been doing this for 10 years and this is something completely new. I don't know where to start. So it's, extremely bright and smart individuals who just need that little bit of a boost on the business side of things. So yeah, definitely a good point, Ann.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited. We definitely want to encourage those that are watching from the Peerland community, when everything does get launched, we want this to be a success. This is for us in the Peerland community. So please, let's come out, let's support it. Let's tell others too. I know I have a friend, I'm trying to convince her to move to Pearland, so if we know those people that might be looking, sometimes you have people that are looking to start families, looking to move to the suburbs. Let's tell them all about this wonderful community that we live in. And those aspiring entrepreneurs, things like that, let's please let them know about what we're doing in our little small town. It's not so small anymore. And on that, I do want to turn it over to Tony because we do have some upcoming things that's a part of our entrepreneur and business committee, and I'm very excited about. Tony, you want to tell them all about it?
I sure do. So we have this educational series has really gone very well, and we want to kind of build with on our business development portion, and we're going to bring on a program starting March 23rd. We don't have specifics out yet, but they're coming very soon. That we will start our business development educational series and workshops then, and it's going to be called Serial Conversations, and cereal like you eat. So the idea is we will gather early in the morning. We will have a little bit of breakfast and some networking, and then we will do an educational series, have a subject expert, just like our panel come in, teach a workshop on things that are very relevant to business right now. Sales, marketing, how to retain and attract and recruit talent, what talent looks like now after a pandemic, all kinds of good topics. And there's a little bit of action. What I'm really excited about with this program is it's just not going to be a sit and get. You're not just going to come eat cereal and get great information, but we're going to give you some steps to put into practice so that when you come to the next series, you have some practical application. You have some really good stuff to come back, apply to your business, and then come back and share. And so hopefully what we're striving for is just to build a network of business owners, large, small industry, that will be a support system. The skills that if you're lacking in a skill or you want to learn more of how someone's successful, just that real kind of raw education or workshops and that kind of stuff to grow your talents and skills. And then after, if you're interested in being a part of the business development committee, we will meet directly after that workshop, and we'll do the planning and what we think that how this committee should go and where it should go. And so we're excited to see all of our people come on board to that and just make it a really strong resource and support for the business community here in Pearland.
And there will be actual cereal there.
Yes.
And there'll be different, like a bad cereal, a fattening cereal, a diet cereal.
Sugar, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We will have a sweet, a sugar and a granola. We'll have some good stuff. And there's opportunities to sponsor the cereal, to sponsor a workshop. And, we're going to reach out to friends here locally. And we're going to bring, we're going to try to bring the best of the best in from outside and learn from who's doing it well, and to support our community. And we're going to have fun doing it. So
Yeah.
23rd will be the first cereal conversation. More to come really soon.
You said it was March. What's the date?
23rd.
And that's a Wednesday, correct?
Right. It'll be a Wednesday, and it'll start at I don't know if the time is actually locked down yet, but it'll be an early start, and then we'll get you out of here by 9 o'clock on that portion. And then immediately following, we'll have the
meeting,
a planning and
yeah. So we'll do the committee meeting after that.
right.
And Brianne, who's the co-chair, who's my co-chair of this business and entrepreneur committee, will be the one that's leading and heading up the cereal conversation. If you don't know Brianne, she's the owner of the Action Coach Peerland. This is right up her alley. They're used to teaching very interactive workshops about helping to support small business owners not just having ideas, but how do you put things in place? How do you measure them to make sure that you're staying on track? So it's really going to be a resource. We want to encourage you guys. We're going to do a lot of promotion for it, but we definitely want to encourage you guys to come out. And so now you kind of have the best of both worlds. We'll continue our virtual series, which we know we attract more than just a Peerland community. We have people in different states that are actually viewing our entrepreneurship series. And then we'll have our local in-person, and anyone outside the Pearland community is welcome, to come as well. But it's going to be a lot of people within the Pearland community, a way to support them. So we're very excited about that. And, we have a lot coming this year. And then I've had a lot of people reach out to me about wanting to be on the committee and having ideas. So that's going to be a way, by coming to that, will be a way to get your voice heard and for us really to organize different things that we have coming up. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Our special guests, Brian Malone from the PEDC and Melissa from the Canon. Thank you so much. And everyone that's joining us out there in the virtual world, we are here on Fridays, the third Friday of the month, starting at 10 a.m. live on Facebook. And then this continues to be on the Chamber's video page. If you haven't seen our other series from 2021, we had a lot of good topics. Just go to the Pearland Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, click on videos, and you can see the videos of so many different topics. This one will be listed there as well. All righty, thank you so much, and we will see you here next month.